Hello, today I'm going to show you how I made this custom deck box for my Boja Jaws of the Conclave deck. As you can see, it's got some pretty intricate carvings actually into the wood, and then it actually has powder coated paint in all the details to give it even more contrast. So this is a natural hardwood that is then engraved. You put the powder coat into the engraving and then cure it, and then some clear coats over the top to give it that nice shine, and some sanding, of course, goes into that. You can also see it's got a velvet lined inner box. You just lift the lid off, and it's got room for 100 cards in the main compartment, extra cards over here for tokens, and your commander card. Of course, there's Voja doing its thing, being ferocious wolfy thing, and it's all velvet lined on the inside to protect your deck. Of course, you've got it sleeved, but even if you don't, it's velvet lined, so you're not putting your expensive cards up against wood or plastic or other paper in a normal deck box. And this just slides right back over the top, and you just hold it like that. It stays in. You're fully protected with a beautiful custom design that I will show you how to make. Okay, so to get started with the box, we're going to start with a design. I am not an artist, so I use Copilot AI to draw stuff. You can hate me if you want about the AI usage. It's what's happening. So what I've done is gone through several different iterations of some designs. You can see some of the prompts up here. Not sure why it's not showing it in mine, but here we go. Line drawing with a wall of vines and skulls and acorns woven into it. This is going to be a squirrel black and green themed box. Bloomburrow's coming out very, very soon, and there's a new squirrel deck, so I'm going to make something that looks good for that. And I went through several different iterations. Some of these are really terrible, and you got to go through and select some better ones. I did like this one. Let's see if it loads up. Yep, this one, pretty good. It has squirrel birds in it for some reason, so that's something to deal with later, but I liked that one. Then I tried with some forest, and it just did crazy stuff, so that is not gonna go into anything. So basically, I pulled that down and then put it into my laser tool. Alright, so this is Xtool. I have an Xtool laser. This is what I use, and they have their own software. So I have my my drawings for the box sides. You can see these little tabs are how it all pieces together. This is a lattice, so it's got little sort of circles that will remain in the box. And this is a slightly different design to what I showed at the beginning, but I figured it would work better for this. Basically what I do here is I put the mana symbols in each of those circles, which we'll see soon. But what I did here is I brought one of those downloaded images from the Copilot thing. I did edit it right here. I basically erased those bird squirrels for whatever reason they were in there, and this weird hanging loop of vine. It's the thing with like any AI generated stuff, you gotta look really closely because it'll put ridiculous things that don't make sense in there. You got to go and edit it. So that's what I did there. This is the top of the box. So that's going to be the design on top, and that's going to get engraved deeply into it. And then we'll, again, put that powder coated paint. So it'll be a really deep color that shows up engraved in the top of the box. And now to pull in some of the mana symbols, I'll show you an example of a different one I did for poison deck. So these are the poison mana, well, not mana symbols, the poison symbol in Magic the Gathering. And it just goes in there like that. So you'd see it would show up in the center of that circle, and you have a whole grid, this like lattice that goes there, and then you can see inside to the contrasting velvet color inside for the inner box. So that's really cool. So this one was actually made, it's a green outside with the engraving, kind of a natural raw wood color, and black on the inside for the velvet, which I'll show here. Here is the poison box. And going back to this one, we're going to bring in some mana symbols that I have in a different project here. It's loading because there's a lot of stuff. All right, so here this is actually the Voja one. We go to Golgari's. Okay, so we're gonna grab these symbols and pop them over to the other one. All right, I've copied those and pasted them in here. It came over with its own lattice, so I'll have to deal with that, but that'll be easy enough. This will help me align everything up in the right way. So let's zoom in super close here, line up those so they overlap completely. Yep, that's it. That's fine. Yep, so there we go. Okay, I updated the colors of the layers in order to get a sense of what this is actually going to look like on the box. So we've got kind of an orangey brown to represent the wood there. We've got the green for the forest green mana symbol. So that will be powder coated green. And then black for the skull, because that'll be powder coated black. And this is all going to be black highlights or lowlights, I suppose, in here. And that is going to go into the laser. This is loading the wood into the Xtool M1 laser cutter and engraver. I'm getting it nice and aligned on the honeycomb bed and moving these little clips around so that it'll stay in place once we start the work. And that's going to be really important because we're going to do things in multiple layers and engrave multiple times, as you'll see. All right, now we're going to set up this on top of the wood, and only 2 pieces fit, or 3, sorry, gotta save those for later. So if you, in this offer, if you kind of take this out of the area, it just won't process it. So the things that we actually want to output are the skulls. We're actually gonna do the skulls and the trees separate. So we're gonna do skulls first and the squirrel image. So that's outputting the squirrel and the skulls only. So go to process. All right, so that is what it's actually going to engrave. Looks pretty good. Let's hit start. That sends the file over to the laser. And when that button turns, then you hit that. And this is gonna start moving. And then we'll come back when it's ready. And here's a close-up of the laser getting the job done on that box top pattern with the vines, the acorns and skulls, and as you can see over here, a little squirrel all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And here's what it looks like after the first pass. This is just the plain engraved, so we've got the black skulls and the top of the box design. Now, the reason that I did just the skulls and not the trees is because we're gonna do powder coat painting now. And if you've never seen it before, this is powder coat paint. It's a powder and it's paint. So that powder is gonna fill in the engraving there, and then you're gonna cure it with a laser. So I just used a little spoon to kind of spoon it out and dump it into these little clumps. And then I've got this little metal card, which my son engraved a Zelda symbol onto, to spread it out into the engraving like that. So it's just gonna go back and forth until you fill in all the engraving area, get into the little parts of the wood. The same with these skulls here, and you'll see it kind of just sit into the design. So it doesn't matter if it's anywhere outside of the engraving areas because the board hasn't changed position. So I'm gonna basically engrave it again, and the heat from the laser beam itself
is going to cure the paint, melt it into place, and then that's going to add a lot of contrast, as you can see, to where it's engraved and give a lot of depth to the really engraved areas versus the shallower engraved areas, which was by basically the darkness of the image. So in the lighter areas, it would be a shallower engrave, and in the darker areas, it's a deeper engrave. So that's going to get you different amounts of paint that's going to fall into it, and different amounts of paint that'll stick once it actually cures. So you kind of want to do a little final angle here, and we're pretty much good to go for another round. And here you can see the laser halfway through the squirrel. The back half of the squirrel is already done, so you can see all the detail. And the front half is kind of blurry because the paint is still dry there, powder form. But in the back, it has solidified and been cured into the wood. Okay, the squirrel part is done. On to the skulls. They are getting painted with a laser. And it is done. Take a look at that. Ooh, if it focuses, there we go. It's nice and shiny after it cures. So you've got a great look to it. And then we're gonna engrave the trees there, and there. And while we do that, we'll turn the air on so it blows the other stuff away. All right, now we're making trees with the air assist on so it blows the extra black powder paint away as it's going. Because I'm gonna go and put some green powder paint on top of the newly engraved trees once they're done. Okay, now we are going to fill in the green. So we take a scoop of this. And take little bits. Once it cures, it'll be a lot darker than this. Otherwise, that would look a bit silly. This kind of minty green. It basically cooks it, so it darkens the color as it goes. So that'll be good. Put the rest back in the bag. And then take this. Because I already cured the black paint, I don't need to worry about rubbing the green paint over it. Just fill in the engraving. All these trees. Get the extra, you don't want any ridges because that'll make ridges in the paint. So you just want it nice and flat. In all the little nooks and crannies. Excess a little scrape off. Alright, and then we hit the laser again. And here's a fast motion view of the green trees getting laser painted and turning from powder into solid paint right before your very eyes. Pretty cool. Okay, now we've got the outline to cut out. So I've selected the brown layer and it's marked for output right there, 100% at 4. It can do it at like 6 millimeters per second, but just to be extra sure that it cuts all the way through, I'm going at 4, and we will go to process. As you can see, that is everything that it'll output, and we hit start. That's super fast. We're going to turn on the air assist for this one. Hit go. And here's the cutout and painted box top. You can see all the great detail that goes into it and kind of the shininess of the black paint. And then when it gets a clear coat, it's really gonna pop. Okay, and we've completed the green and black. The black looks very green right now because it's got a little powder on top. We'll wipe that off and see what it looks like. All right,
Alright, so now this is how it's going to come together. This will be the top, there's the sides, and they relieve like that. So now we just gotta cut the other two sides. We'll engrave, paint, and cut the other two sides. So we'll get that done now. Now we've got all the pieces engraved, painted, and cut. You're gonna start assembling the bottom part of the box like this, and the last piece is gonna go right in there, and then you'll be able to see how the corners fit together. So let's see if I can do this in view of the camera here, and just gonna kind of gently press it in. It's a tight fit, so basically I am gonna add wood glue to this just to be extra sure, but it's sort of a pressure fit between these two edges. That looks pretty good. And then final piece is the topper right here with that cool design. So just gonna go through, starting with the corners. Get that pressed in. Make all sorts of fun noises. Fun/scary. It's one of those things where once it's in, it's super steady, but like it was a little nerve-wracking. All right, I've got the box out in the shop, and using a gentle rubber mallet, got the rest of it tightly packed in there so you can see all the joins are really close and tight. And the next step is to, on the inside, add some glue just in the seams, just so it doesn't come apart at all, and kind of at the sides corner and at the corners or the edges of where the lid meets. And then you're gonna give it a little sanding, a little clear spray, some of this stuff, clear coat enamel, and we are set to go. And here we are outside, giving the box a spray down with the clear coat. Got a click coat on the top already. I'm gonna get the sides here, and a little bit of corner on the top was missing, so gonna hit that with a little bit more spray. Then we're just gonna rotate the box and get all the sides nice and coated with a quick spray of that clear coat. And as you can see, as soon as it hits, it really brings out the tone of that wood. And you'll see in a moment that the shine of the powder coated paint really starts to come out whenever it's got that clear coat on it. Super exciting. Ooh, little piece of fuzz. Let's pull that off. And yes, take a look at that. Oh, it looks good, especially in the sunshine, which we're outside right now and it's sunny. So it is shining up the place. This is looking fantastic. Here I'm gonna also need to always get the inside of it. So after a little bit more on the top, I'm gonna flip that over, and probably should have done the inside first, but you know, it's okay. I'll flip that over and then spray the inside of it so that that's nice and smooth as well. And that's been sanded down as well, so we got everything sanded. All the corners are nice and rounded off, no sharp corners, and everything's nice and smooth. And now it's got a great clear coat on it. We're gonna set that up on this table right here and take a look at that. Oh yeah. Okay, so that's how you build one of these boxes. We started out looking at this one as the example. Got a slightly different design here to match the new squirrel decks that are coming out for Bloomborough. So this is matching that Golgari squirrel deck that's coming out. And in the next video, you'll see how to make the inner part here, which has the velvet lining and the different sections to hold the cards. So that is the first step of how to make one of these boxes.